Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to show you how I made this garden fence out of pallet wood. So I started off by cutting a post to length. I found these posts thrown out on the side of the road and in skips. They're not rotten, they're still good to use, and I'm going to add one of my fence post toppers to the top to protect the end grain of the post. So I'm just going to drill a couple of pilot holes and add a couple of screws to attach the topper to the top of the post. I'm going to add a bit of glue, but this isn't necessary. Now to get the post attached to the concrete post, I'm just using a long drill bit here to make some marks on the post so that I know where to drill for the bolt holes. I'm going to be using 8mm bolts, so I'm drilling a 10mm hole to give me some clearance. And I'm going to be using this threaded rod, some nuts and washers. The bolt I use is 8mm threaded bolt. I recommend this, and I use this because it's easier to get through a hole because it's quite slim, as opposed to 10mm or 12mm. In my experience, it's just as strong for a fence. It does the job just fine. It's easier to cut because it's thinner, and most importantly, it is cheaper. So now I can add the threaded bolt through the old concrete posts and attach the nuts and the washers and tighten them up with a spanner. So this fence is in my dad's garden and I'm using the old existing concrete posts. They're very strong and there's no reason to take these out. It would be a lot of hassle to do that, and it raises these wooden posts off the ground to prevent them from rotting. So these concrete posts are very useful for that. Once that was done, I could take a hacksaw and cut off the excess rod. So this is how far I've got. I've got one post in here with 2 bolts. I've added a post at the back of this concrete one here, again with 2 bolts, and then I've used 3 cross members here, and these ones I've actually joined with a half lap joint, so they're just scrap wood. You can see the join there, but they're really strong. If you'd like to see how I did that, I'll leave a link in the description box for the video to that, how to join 2 pieces of wood together. I've added the toppers on. You can see the toppers there, they're made out of pallet wood. I've got a video on how you can make those too. I'll leave a link to that video in the description box also. But that's it so far. It's all nice and level, and now it's ready for cladding. So I'm going to add pallet wood all the way across here. So I'm just making use of the existing concrete posts, some threaded bolt, nuts and washers and scraps of wood. These posts, both of them were found on the side of the road, but there's nothing wrong with them. Some fence stain has now been added to the frame. So now I'm going to take up some pallet wood to my dad's house. That is all the pallet wood ready for cladding the frame. I've taken all this from pallets that I've found, thrown out, unwanted pallets. If you'd like to know how to dismantle pallets, I've got a video on that, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description box below. So now I can start cladding the frame with the pallet wood. I can offer up a piece and make a mark, and then cut this piece out with the miter saw for speed. And for this project I'm just using random screws, anything that I could find, and I'm piloting holes and adding 4 screws into each piece of pallet wood, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and the impact driver was handy for this. And there's the last piece going in. This was cut to size and hammered in with a nice tight fit. Now I could just measure the width, because I'm going to add a trim piece along the centre to hide the joins of the pallet boards. And I can add this in the same way, adding screws and driving them in with the impact driver. Right, so that is the first fence panel complete. You can see it's been cladded top and bottom with pallet wood. There's all sorts of wood in here, pine, cedar, some hardwood. This was off an old sofa. I'm not sure what this is, some other kind of hardwood, and that's just acting as a strip to cover the join of the 2 sections. So that is the panel finished. Now it was time to give the fence a coat of stain. We're using red cedar. I actually found this stain thrown out a couple of years ago. I found about 7 tubs of it brand new, still sealed, so I've had that in the shed for a while, and this is a perfect time to use it up. I have a video on how to treat your fence in more detail, so if you're interested I'll leave a link to that video in the description box below. So with all the offcuts, in the evening time we had a little fire just to get rid of them. And then it was time to add the next panel. So again, I'm drilling some clearance holes in the posts and offering them up to the concrete post, making sure they're level, and the squeeze clamps come in handy here to keep the post in position. Then we could measure up this distance, because this is going to be quite big. It's about 10 to 10.5 feet wide. I'm using all scrap wood again here to make the framework here. And I'm going to be using lap joints to connect these pieces of wood together to make nice long 10 feet lengths. And these are roughly 2 by 4 in size. I'm adding plenty of glue here and decking screws to secure the join. And I also have a video on how you can actually lap joint a fence post if you're short on fence posts. So to connect these cross members, I'm going to be using some old brackets, shelf brackets. These will do the job just fine. Piloting and adding in some decking screws. And there'll be 3 cross members again, top, middle and bottom. I also added some secondary brackets at the top for extra support. Then my dad painted the frame. Right, so this is the fence so far. We've got the 3 braces in, the post is in. These have been lap jointed together. As I say, I've got a video on how to do that. There's the one joint, there's the other, and there's the other. So this is about 10 foot across, and these are roughly 2x4s, and they're being held up with large old shelf brackets. So now I just need to get the pallet wood cladding on. Now I want to add some extra support to the frame, so I'm adding some 45-degree cuts to this wood, and this will brace the frame and give it some more rigidity. So I've added these 45-degree braces on each end, just because the span of this fence panel is going to be around 10 feet or so. So I don't really want to put a central post in. So this will help to spread the weight from the top sort of centre out towards the posts and add a lot of rigidity. So as you can see, I'm about 85 kilograms and the frame holds my weight just fine. Now I added a string line to the top to help me when adding the pallet boards to get a nice straight line. I then proceeded to mark up and cut pallet boards ready to clad this fence panel. I could then offer up the boards to the string line and secure them. So that's the top line of cladding on, all different types of pallet wood. I've just used whatever screws I had, all random stuff, and then we'll continue the trim to cover that join. I also added the string line at the bottom, again to get a nice straight line. For this video, this will be the last panel I make, but in future I'll be doing a final panel to finish the fence off. And in goes the final piece. Then I could add the trim and drive in plenty of screws to keep it nice and secure. and that was the fence complete. Okay, so that is about it for this video. I think it turned out great in the end, considering that it is just made out of pallet wood and wood that I've found in skips or on the side of the road, and it's really worth doing to save a bit of money too. Saved a good few £100 building this myself. So if you did find this video useful, please remember to like and also consider subscribing for more DIY related videos. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.